served the entire time aboard the Submarine Service in Atlantic and Pacific. 7 different ships.
7 different ships. And if you could please provide us your last rank in the military.
My rank in the military was electrician, mate chief, senior, Submarine Service.
You said earlier you were in the Submarine Service?
I was in the Submarine Service the entire time I was in the Navy.
In the Navy. So I'm assuming you will think about, but if you could kind of go back in memory, where did you go to basic as far as Navy?
I went to the San Diego, California.
Okay.
Immediately after I left there by train, took about 5 days to go to New London, Connecticut submarine school.
Only after 5 days in San Diego you went to New...
No, it took 5 days to
5 days to get there by train. Okay, okay, very good.
That was quite an experience.
Now, in the Navy in San Diego in particular, did you have to make many adjustments based on what you did as a civilian?
No, I was ready to go and ready. I went. I was a good sailor the whole time.
Did you find out your conditioning helped? Probably what you were doing prior to the military?
Yes, I had my mind made up and I stuck to it.
Okay. Did you immediately go into electronics, or was that determined?
No, they were more concerned with me being a submarine sailor. After I went to the submarine, then they sent me back to Chicago, Illinois for training in electrical.
Okay, and then you told us you went by train 5 days from Connecticut to San Diego.
That was quite a difference in the way the military did business in those days.
You wanted to describe
how? Later, you got on an airplane, you was there the same day.
Can you describe the train trip? Did you go as a group, or did you go?
No, I went solo. And the big experience is when I got to New York, I'd never seen something so big. Grand Central Station.
Grand Central.
Made 2 or 3 friends immediately. That's my nature.
Yeah.
And went back and visited them thereafter. 981 Hancock Avenue.
Wow.
Out on Long Island.
Yeah, I've been there. Changed a little bit. And so that was 19, what year was it?
58.
58, okay. Let's talk about your training as far as specialized training. How long did the Navy determine they were going to put you in submarine service?
They, by classification, were looking for submarine sailors, and in particular were fielding people for the nuclear power program. And I exceeded their requirements. And so then they had to decide what exactly they wanted me to do in the nuclear program. And most of it was civilian-based training.
Okay. Now, I've talked to a few submariners about the psychological part of it and how many, did you go through any tests for that?
Yes.
Whether you could handle that particular job?
Part of it was, would be on the job. They took me out with the rest of the crew, of course, and we ran. The first year I was aboard a submarine, we ran 300 days out of 365. And I was a well-weathered young man after 1 year.
How did you handle it? Was it stressful, or?
No, I got a kick out of it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you were a natural-born submariner?
Natural born.
Now,
beware the naturals. They'll take over the world.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's neat. Now, how about you're a bit curious as to far as did you have any hands-on with nuclear-type equipment? Or
every day.
Every day. Okay.
As soon as I woke up till I went to bed, I had my hands all over it. Yeah.
Did that take special type of clothing or gloves?
Not where I was at.
Oh, okay.
But it took a special person that really wanted to get the job done right, because we had no manuals to tell us how to do it.
Oh, really?
We did it, and then they wrote the manuals. And they wrote those at West Mifflin.
Did you help write manuals?
House.
Did you help write some of the manuals?
Yes.
I would think so.
Yes.
Now, how, as far as safety concerns, working around any?
Admiral Rickover insisted that he wanted nothing electronic and nothing automatic. If there was something to be done, he wanted a man to put a hand on whatever it needed to be done and take full responsibility. So he made us a deal. No matter what happens, tell me the truth of what happened. and just started a little book about that thick. And they wrote down all these peculiar things that happened and resolved them in time.
Was this like a log, or
yeah, a little log,
like a log, daily log,
which became a big log, which is, you know, like 8 foot long now.
Did you ever meet with Admiral Rookoff?
I did.
Oh, you did? You want to talk about that, or?
It was just a brief meeting.
Brief meeting.
He was getting chewed out by a man who had just scrubbed the floor and had it shining clean, and he got a big laugh out of it. He said, "No, you don't walk with dirty feet on my clean floor." And everybody got a big kick out of that. He was human.
So if you kind of thought back in the time that you started training to completed training, was there a amount of time, or did you just go to training one time and then go into the military?
It was a catch as catch can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When we put the 628 hull in commission, that's when I made my trip to West Mifflin, and just before that there was like a 6-month training program.
Okay.
And I was living in New London, Connecticut at that time.
Okay. So did you continue to have to go back for training as they improved on subs?
I was a trainer.
You were the trainer?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little?
It's you practice, you perfect your to what you do, and teach it to other people in a shorter and shorter period of time until you can turn out. The men who came to the nuclear power program had to enlist for 8 years. This was not a fast turnaround program.
So we can assume these individuals were mature people. I mean, you didn't have to worry about.
They really had their mind made up.
Around. Okay.
They were a pleasure to work with. The best group I've ever met in my life.
Now, were these all Navy enlisted personnel?
All Navy enlisted.
Okay. So we talked about the type of work you perform, and it was on nuclear electronics. Were you called a specialist of any type?
I was the boss.
You were the boss. Want to explain what that means?
I was the foreman. I was the enlisted head.
You told me one thing when we were talking earlier about what the boss did in the morning and what the boss did at night. You want to repeat that, or do you recall it?
You might not want to hear all that.
No, I thought you said you were the first one up. And the first
one up, the last one to bed, and everything was done. When I went to bed, the captain said he could go to bed because he knew everything was done and done right.
Now, what was your typical day? Were they long days or something?
Sit on, watch. They say in the Navy to watch. There's 6 hours of maintenance and 6 hours of rest.
Throughout the day.
18-hour days.
18-hour days.
18-hour days became a lot. 18-hour days, yeah.
Okay. So you said your maximum rank was E8?
Yes.
And when did you make E8? How long have you been in?
So far back it's hard to remember.
Oh, you've been in 8?
That was one of those paperwork snafus.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. I should have been E9 for the last 3 or 4 years I was in. I had the position, the rank, and all the things, but they were concerned that I was that I wasn't a foreign national or something, and because of my birth certificate said that I was born in Johnson County, Texas, and they didn't believe it. So,
okay. Very good. Okay, and then the type of work you did was, you said around nuclear, anything in particular you did?
Start, stop, and maintain machinery.
So you had to know it all, rather than just one of them.
And people who worked for me were more specialized, and I used them when their skills were like a machinist, electrician, electronics, or whatever, when that was specifically required. Yeah.
Now I'm trying to visualize what the quarters were on a submarine. Did you have special quarters as an E8, or?
When I went to submarines, you had to be under 6 foot tall. That gives you a clue.
Oh my gosh.
They didn't want tall people in a submarine because they didn't fit. And then eventually, when I was about halfway through my retirement time, they started bringing in people who were 6'6", and they were uncomfortable.
That should have been interesting.
Yeah. But they were that good. We needed them.
Okay. Now, how did you stay in physical condition on a submarine? I mean,
Well, we'll go from one end of that submarine to the other.
so they're pretty big.
Yes, they're very large. They
Okay.
have to be big enough to hold a missile.
Oh.
And missiles we're talking about over 30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ship had to be over 30 feet, not because the ship needed to be, but because of what it was going to do needed to be. And so that's the size of the submarine.
So were you ever in a situation where you came to general quarters or
Every day.
every day? Did they practice that or?
Yes, we were, there's I think 5 levels of readiness. A submarine, as soon as it left port, was on level 1. You stayed there.
So that's the top level?
That's the
Okay.
top level.
Okay. Now, how about, was the housing adequate? I mean, were you crammed together or?
We probably were, but we really didn't notice it.
You didn't have
We were
time,
pretty
did
busy.
you?
Yeah, we didn't have time to notice it.
Now, I hear the rumor that the food's pretty good on the sub. Is that true or?
Well, the best expression I can tell you is when we would pull into Pearl Harbor, we would shut down the mess and our cooks would go to Waikiki and be chefs in the biggest hotels in Waikiki.
Wow. That says it all, right?
That sort of says it all.
How about social life? What'd you do on the sub? I mean, could you do anything? I mean, play cards or watch movies?
Not much. We were more or
Always
less
working.
self-contained. Yeah, self-contained.
Now, you talked a little bit, and you don't have to talk about this, you want to, about what happened when Air Force One was in the general area of the submarine.
Everything in the world, so submarine is targeted, and everything up there is targeted by a submarine. That's not true of any other ship in the Navy. They don't target, for instance, Air Force One, but we do. Just in case.
Now, were you dealing directly with that aircraft or with the
No.
communications aircraft?
I wouldn't. They would call us.
Yeah, okay.
And give us our orders. Yeah.
So you kind of briefly touched on where you served. You want to talk about that again?
Well, the oddity of my service was I was at sea for 18 out of 20 years.
Wow.
And that's pretty well a landmark thing. And it was all aboard submarines. Only one of those was not nuclear, and that was the USS Darter, for my first submarine. And that's the one I did 300 days at sea on my first year, so it broke me in well.
Wow. What's the longest you were under surface or whatever?
About 90 days.
90 days, okay.
Most.
So did you ever serve stateside? And if so, where?
Stateside?
Yeah, did you ever?
We would leave stateside.
And that was it? Okay.
I spent 3 years in Hawaii, and I lived in Hawaii, but my ship was running out of Guam. They would fly us to Guam, we'd go aboard the ship, make our run, and fly back to Hawaii.
So that was a sub base in Guam, okay. Now, you recall if you probably visited every country in the world, right?
Just about. 1 year I was in the Mediterranean at the top of the Suez Canal. The next year, almost to the day, I was at the bottom of the Suez Canal in the Indian Ocean, and I thought that was sort of an oddity.
Oh,
I
yeah,
got
yeah.
this all the way around the world by about 63 miles, and you
Good.
got a giggle out of that.
Did you track where you went or try to keep a list of
Yeah,
countries?
but it was after the fact.
Yeah,
Most
right.
of us had no idea where we were at any particular moment.
So I don't need to really talk about the details of the trip, so they were primarily submarine, I guess, but anything you'd like to add to that, or generally the same, or?
Well, one of the favorite jokes among the crew was, wow, we're only 8 miles from land. Wow, 8 miles from land, that's quite a deal, you know,
Yeah.
because normally we were more than 8 miles from land. So which direction, you know? Although it wouldn't have mattered, we were inside a submarine, but gave something to talk about. But, well, which direction? I said, straight down.
Straight down. That's fun.
When you leave Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, the sea buoy that separates the inland from the ocean water is 1,000 fathoms. So you
Wow.
got plenty of room out there to take your submarine to bobbing in about.
What's the deepest that you ever been?
The deepest I've been is a quarter of a mile.
Quarter of a mile. Okay. So you talked about how you traveled and with the military. Did you witness any battle action over these periods? Like,
if we'd have had a battle, we'd have had World War III.
Yeah, because submarines
so
really
since World War III didn't happen, we never officially were in a battle. We had run-ins. The book that's written about it is called Blind Man's Bluff.
I bought the book.
Okay.
Getting ready to read it.
The man sitting behind you bought the book too.
Yeah, I got mine on mine.
It's really interesting.
Oh, yeah, I just kind of glanced at it. I'm going to probably try to read it.
You'll get caught up in it. It's the only book that's actual, factual information.
Yeah, there's about 3 different publications of that, so hopefully I got the right one.
Well, I'm sure you did.
Now, any close calls with the Russian submarine service?
That's what that book's all about.
That's what it's about.
One after the other, after the other, after the other, yeah.
Now, during the military, as far as emotions on board a sub, were they pretty well controlled, or do you ever see people lose it? Or
we got to a point where we were sort of giddy.
Oh, you did?
You know, just shooting the bull among the guys for entertainment. Some of the craziest stories you ever heard in your life. Of course, we all knew there were lies and just there for the amusement of the crew.
So that sort of as a release, though.
We entertained ourselves.
Okay.
See, at one time, they made over 500 movies a year in Hollywood.
Right.
During my service time, they dropped below that level. So we couldn't buy a movie for every day different.
Oh, okay.
And so they started NFL highlights, last year's Super Bowl, and all this kind of stuff. And if there was a cramp in the whole story, I could tell you, that was it. We didn't have enough entertainment.
Now, could you get live feed TV on the sub? I don't know.
What they could do and what they did do was 2 different things.
Oh, okay. Okay. Very good.
We would receive, for instance, we'd receive family ground from home.
Oh.
But your wife might have sent it 3 months ago, but you got it, and hello, I love you.
Did they try to do that periodically, or?
All the time.
Oh, okay.
Because this filled the airwaves with garbage.
Oh.
And that was the intent. It really wasn't so you could say hello to your wife.
So if you had an emergency contact required from your family, how would they do that?
By that method.
By that method.
If it warranted, which I can't imagine anything it warranted. We had people that had appendicitis, and we pickled them and brought them back months later and operated on this stuff. So it really had been something to break that
oh, I would think so.
Thing that we won't. Yeah.
Now, did you witness any destruction of any type while you were in the submarine corps? Like, did you have to go after somebody with bad trouble or anything of that nature?
We were close at hand anytime anything happened anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Idi Amin was one example after reading I was in the Indian Ocean.
Oh.
You remember that? Capturing the nuns and the airplanes.
Right.
I think Israel took care of that.
Now, did you guys get involved in that?
We were there. No.
You were there.
If we'd have gotten involved, it would have been World War III.
Yeah, I would think so. Were there other countries there?
Yes.
The Russians or? I keep
everywhere
writing
we went, they went. Everywhere they went, we went.
Okay.
It's nice to know if the war starts tomorrow or today, later, you know where all other people are and kill them immediately.
Oh, wow.
That's the easiest way around the problem.
Now let's talk a little bit about after you got out of the military. Did you form any friendships in the military that you maintained, or?
That was very difficult, and we did not make a habit of it.
Okay. Okay. So how did you stay in touch with your family through what you were describing?
While we were on the ship.
Yeah.
Well, that family-ground thing was one, and the others we went home every 3 months and acted like real people for a couple of months.
Now, were they pretty liberal with that, or did you have to sign up? Okay. So you didn't.
They were concerned about ship's operations. If your wife started hoarding a lot of food, they knew you were fixing to go out. People that didn't know need to know that.
Were you allowed to
follow
tell
your wife around?
Were you allowed to tell her very much, or
no? She had no. They didn't even. They weren't interested.
Didn't want to hear it. Huh?
Didn't want to hear it.
Okay. And when I'm assuming you were involved in submarine during Vietnam War, or were you?
Yes.
Okay. What were your thoughts about that, or?
Well, part of the submarine involvement, of course, I know nothing of their total operation, was landing Navy SEALs on the beach.
Oh, okay.
That we could.
That actually went into Vietnam?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. And then how you got out after you said you'd been in there 20 years? Or?
Yeah.
How did you return home?
How?
Yeah, I mean, you returned home by
motor transportation.
Oh, okay.
I flew.
Now, where did you live? Where was your wife, I guess?
I was in Hawaii at the time, and she was in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Little Rock, Arkansas. So, how about just when you got home, how did your family receive you?
Well, they did not respond well because they were used to me being gone.
Oh, okay.
And this gave them permission to do anything they wanted to when Daddy gets home. And they took full advantage of that, and ended up divorced. I couldn't handle that.
Was there a wife and children involved in that, or?
Yeah.
Do you keep up with them now, or?
One of them's here today.
Okay.
I'll be here in a few minutes.
Okay, very good.
But my children I have 4 children. They're very different people.
Aren't they?
To each other.
Yeah, I understand that.
But because Dad wasn't home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference.
And a lot of difference.
Okay. Now, one of the things you'd shared with me is what you do after the military. And can you kind of track that a little bit?
Well, I worked for Westinghouse Electric Corporation in Washington State. I worked for Reddick Engineering in Little Rock, Arkansas. I worked for a paper mill company in Ashdown, Arkansas, which since sold to another company. And that was sort of my thing. I was good for about a year or so, and then there just wasn't enough follow-up to make me stay there. And of course, I was getting older for re-entry into the job market. So some time went by, and I said, I'm alone, I'm single, why do I need a house? So I figured it out, and I said, I believe I'll just drive a truck. So I drove a truck for 10 years.
For 10 years?
Yeah.
You drive all over the country?
Million miles.
My gosh.
But it was just a punishment to myself for being in that situation. During that time, I afforded my children liberal allowances, although they were adults and married and whatnot. And that just went sour on me. It made me want to divorce my children.
Yeah.
And so I met a young lady and I married her.
Now, where did you meet her?
And I was happy.
Where did you meet your wife?
In Laredo, Texas.
Laredo, Texas.
Yeah.
Now, this is kind of neat what you're doing now, and I'm assuming that's through your wife. Can you kind of describe what's going on in your life now?
Right now I'm in a hospital.
But I mean, prior, something about ranching?
Yeah, I have a ranch in San Andreas, Mexico. It's a 2-part ranch, and I have a nice home in the city, if you will. And the ranch is out by a small village, 700 population. And it was just wonderful, all the things that needed to be done, that somebody like me would notice immediately.
So you bought the ranch and the condition was okay?
And refabbed the whole place.
How long did that take you?
They're living well with it. Yeah.
So who's there now? You said your stepson? Or?
Well, the stepson has a brand new home on the ranch.
Oh. And
we have a house in the city, San Andreas. And then the youngest daughter of my wife is in medical school in Veracruz. The older son is married and has 2 children, and hopefully he's worked offshore and he's returning to offshore work.
Now, in that area?
And generally in that area.
So that's her family?
Yeah.
So they sound pretty
family.
close, that's good.
Yeah.
So you get along good with them?
Yes, very good.
So they've become your new family?
My other family is very jealous of how well I get along with the new family.
That's unfortunate, because they could be sharing a lot.
Sure, there's no reason for that.
So let me, and we always invite the veteran to talk about anything they want to at the end of the interview. Is there anything you'd like to say to your family or about just anything in general?
About that group of people that I served with, I don't know how they found them. I was really curious. What question do you ask a man, or what information do you require from a man that'll tell you he'll do 8 years in good conscience and then do it? That has always fascinated me. If I could have found out a way to hire people like that, I could have built the moon or whatever.
Oh, sure.
Because they were that good. And just, it was a pleasure to wake up in the morning and see their faces, because they were that good.
What was kind of the general age of that group of people?
Well, they were like most sailors. They were about 18 when they started.
Oh, they were that young?
26 when they got out. And they give them that great big old check to stay in.
Oh.
Huge check
Really?
that I didn't get because I was one of the originals. And that didn't bother me because we needed them that bad.
Well, that's good.
And you could say, well, tomorrow we're going to go play soccer, and they said, fine, we're going to win the Olympics. But I don't get it, you know. But that's just what they thought. But you name what we're going to do, it's got a name, and they would do it.
That's fantastic.
I'm really proud of those guys.
Well, Monty, we want to thank you for the interview, but more than that, I want to thank you for your service to the U.S. Navy Marine Submarine Corps.
You're welcome.
And it's a pleasure doing the interview.